morning, everyone, and welcome.
Just welcome. Let's open in prayer. So I'm going to invite you to just take a moment to center yourself and take a deep breath. And as we bring our attention to this present moment, to this place, to this time, we just allow all of our thoughts of what we have been doing earlier or what we are doing later, we let those just go. And so fully present, we open our hearts and we open our minds to the wisdom, the love, the guidance of Spirit that's always here, right now. We are grateful for this oneness with our connection with the one presence and one power, with our connection with each other, with our connection for all of life, with all of life. So we just allow ourselves to feel gratitude for this day, gratitude for what we are here to learn, and gratitude for the company of all of us here on this journey together. So with open hearts and open minds, we say thank you, loving Spirit, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
I've got love, I've got peace, I've got joy flowing like a river. I've got love, I've got peace, I've got joy flowing like a river. One heart, one mind, one love flowing like a river. I've got hope, I've got strength, I've got faith to move every mountain. I've got hope, I've got strength, I've got faith to move every mountain. One heart, one mind, one love to move every mountain. I've got you, I've got me, I've got us coming together. I've got you, I've got me, I've got us coming together. One heart, one mind, one love coming together. We're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together. Oh, one heart, one mind, one love coming together. One heart, one mind, one love coming together.
Hey, thank you so much. And we've got another one. At the beginning of each year, I like to do a series of talks looking at Unity's 5 principles. There are 5 basic principles. And it's the basic elements of these 5 principles that hold the true power, I believe, to help transform lives. So, a principle is a spiritual fact, or it's a constant, it's unchangeable, it's timeless, it's unlimited. It's something that exists at all times. It's the same. It does not change. It is spiritual law in action. And our first principle, basic principle, is that there is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life. And we call it God, we call it the good. Now, this is our foundational principle. All the other principles rest on this principle. And the key word is not God. The key word is one. You know, The word God is like the most traditional word that we have, pointing to that which is beyond all names. And for some, the word God is sort of problematic. And as we all know, the word God can carry a lot of baggage. My professor at ministerial school, Dr. Tom Shepard, said that he said many people in Unity are what he called refugees from other Christian churches, where the word God can bring a whole lot of negative connotations. I know that I was brought up, and the God that I was sort of in this fundamentalist church, this God that I was being taught, was really quite judgmental and condemning at times. It was, if you read the Old Testament, it's a God that looked more human than God. It was one that got angry and just smited people dead because they did something wrong. And anyway, there's all of these images of this God, and so God has many names, and any name that we use for God, well, it's a concept. And as I've always said, there's as many concepts for God as there are people. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote at the beginning of this book, sort of telling us what the way was, what the ultimate reality was, the Tao. And he said the Tao that can be described in words, this is the opening line, the Tao that can be described in words is not the true Tao. The name that can be named is not the true name. You know, in Zen, they warn us that we should be careful, because we don't want we don't want, if we point to the moon, we don't want people to mistake the finger for the moon. And words are just like that finger. They point to something that's beyond words, beyond description. And no matter what spiritual tradition that you explore, they all agree that this thing that we call God is beyond all words, beyond all description. So we have many, many names for God. And in Unity, we have lots of names for God. You know, it's interesting that even like in Islam has 1,000 names for God. And here in Unity, we speak of spirit, we speak of oneness, we speak of beingness, we speak of divine mind, we speak of God as principle, the sacred. We speak of God as mind with the big M. We speak of God as substance and source and love and life and consciousness. We speak of God as Christ, and we speak of God as I am. Our concept of God and how we think about this thing called God, it matters. It's sort of like, our concepts are sometimes like running like a software program, running in the background. And so we need to be aware of these hidden thoughts that we have that are lurking in our mind that paint this picture of God or Spirit. But again, our key concept is one. And you know, one is found in all. This concept of being one is found in all of our religious traditions. In the three Abrahamic religions, that is, your Christian, Islam, Judaism, God is one. In Unity, God, we in the Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions, it's a monotheism. And so it's a God that is very much separate from us. You know, a God that's very holy and different from us. And we're here and it's up there. And I don't want you to walk around thinking of God in that way. In unity for us, God is right here, right now. God is immanent. We live and we move our being and have our being in this thing that we call the divine. If you look at the other religions, Buddhism, for example, views that everything in this world, this is a key concept of Buddhism, everything in this world is interconnected. Interconnected, connected, everything. And so therefore it implies a oneness because everything is connected. One of the most beautiful scriptures is found in the Bhagavad-Gita, which is some of your Hindu scriptures. And I really love this little part. This is where Krishna, which is an incarnation of God in Hinduism, says that when he sees me in all and sees all in me, then I never leave him. And he never leaves me. And he who in this oneness of love loves me, in whatever he sees, wherever this man may live, in truth he lives in me. This scripture points directly to seeing the divine everywhere we look, in every face that we see, in every person that we meet. The divine is present. And Paul, the Apostle Paul in Acts 17:28, he's speaking to the Athenians in Greece. And he quotes the Greek poet Aratus, who lived like 300 years before Paul. And this Greek poet had said that, speaking of God, he said, "In him we live and we move and we have our being." In it we live and move and have our being. And this is the essence of mysticism. This us being totally one with Spirit. So our first principle, there's only one presence and one power, invites us to experience the divine all around you, in yourself, in your neighbor, in all of life. In a letter that I sent out with our newsletter that I do every week, I spoke about a book called Blackout Speaks. And this was a book that by John Nyhart. And it was a book that I read as a young man, probably, I don't know, it was probably in like junior high. But when I was growing up, I read a lot, and I loved to read. And I especially loved to read biographies about famous people. I mean, I read about, Thomas Jefferson. I read about George Washington. I read about Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. And so I was always reading about Ben Franklin. Of course, I was in the States, so I didn't know my Canadian history. So I should have read some of my Canadian history, shouldn't I? But anyway, so I read all of this. And one of the things that I read was Blackout Speaks. And this was a book, like I said, written by John Nyhart. And he interviewed with Black Elk's son interpreting. He interviewed Black Elk. And Black Elk was was a fascinating man. He was a medicine man of the Oglala Lakota people. He was an educator about his culture. He was actually a contemporary of Charles Fillmore. He was born in 1863 and didn't pass away until 1950. But he was a second cousin of the war leader Crazy Horse. And he fought with Crazy Horse in the Battle of Little Bighorn. And that's, if you know a little bit about Indian history, was when Custer took his last stand and was wiped out. And that was the Battle of Little Bighorn. So Black Elk fought in that. And then he survived the Wounded Knee Massacre, which, if you have studied about some of the atrocities that were done to Native American people, that was one of the worst. And then, surviving all of that, he ended up later in life. He was a very young man when he fought, but later on he toured with the Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. And he toured. He actually went to Europe. He actually performed for Queen Victoria. So he had a fascinating life. But more than anything else, what really touched me was his words that he spoke about his beliefs in the Great Spirit. And they rang so true to me. They were really words that made me really begin to have second thoughts about the fundamentalism that I was being taught. I was hearing that there's other ways to look at spirit. I was raised in that atmosphere where there's only one way. And if you don't believe like I do, you're going to go to hell. And it just didn't ring true. So in the book, I remembered this so well. Black Elk said, the first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all of its powers. And when they realize at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that its center is really everywhere. It is within each and every one of us. The Great Spirit, its center is everywhere, and it's within each and every one of us. So my question to you is have you touched upon that first peace which he's talking about, which he speaks of, that he says there's a peace that we find when we actually realize our relationship, when we really realize this oneness that we have with Spirit, when we realize that we are one with its powers, and when we realize that it is at the center of the universe, and it's everywhere present, and it's within each and every one of us. What I'm saying is you can tap into that, and that's what we teach here in Unity. You can tap into that one presence and that one power. You can align yourself with that one presence and that one power. You know, A Course in Miracles says, heaven is not a place or a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness. When we realize our oneness with Spirit, that there has never been a disconnect with Spirit, that we are one with Spirit, when we realize that, that is heaven.
So we invite you now to stand up and let's open our hearts and minds in gratitude As we close by speaking out loud or silently to ourselves our love offering prayer, followed by the prayer of protection. Divine
Love in me and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And the prayer of protection, if you'll follow after me, the light of God surrounds us.
I am light.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am love.
The power of God protects us.
I am power.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am presence.
Wherever we are, God is. I am divine, and my friends, you truly are. Thank you.
Thank
you
you all
being
for
here.
joining us
Thank
today.
you for joining us.